I moved to a small beachside cottage a few weeks ago. I thought a change of scenery would help my creativity after losing my job in the city. The sound of the waves and the smell of salt felt peaceful at first, but that calm didn't last long. One night, I heard muffled voices coming from the old boathouse near my cottage. It was late, maybe around midnight. I thought it was just locals sharing stories. I felt curious and wanted to check it out, but I didn't. Instead, I sat there, listening. The laughter drifted through the night. I was alone, so I tried to shake it off and went to bed. Days passed, and I heard more strange things coming from the boathouse. One evening, while I was trying to work, I saw shadows passing by the windows. A chill ran down my spine. My heart raced as I wondered what was happening over there. The laughter turned to whispers. I think I even saw a group of people standing there one night, but they didn't look right. They were too still, their faces hidden in darkness. I heard them whispering, but the words didn't make sense. I felt cold and decided not to approach them. The next night felt the same. I sat on my porch trying to focus on my photography, but those whispers clung to my mind. Maybe it was nothing, just my imagination. I wanted to believe that, yet something didn't feel right. My heart thumped loudly as I thought about the shadows I'd seen and the laughter I had heard. Around midnight again, I went back to the porch. I wanted to see if I could hear anything else. The whispers were back, their voices soft against the night air. I couldn't make out what they were saying. I wanted to feel brave, but fear gnawed at me. I reminded myself it could be the locals, but deep down I knew that wasn't true. I stood up, my legs felt heavy. I pushed myself to go closer. As I approached the boathouse, my breath caught in my throat. I saw them, those same figures standing unnaturally still. I asked if they were okay, but they didn't answer. I felt their eyes on me, though I couldn't see their faces. Panic rose in my stomach. Then one of them whispered, "We've been waiting for you." That sent chills through me. I turned to run, but I couldn't shake their words from my mind. I didn't look back. I stumbled back to my cottage, my heart racing. I thought about everything. Was it real? Maybe I imagined it. But I felt like I had stumbled into something I should never have disturbed. Even now, I hear whispers at night. Those words echo in my thoughts. I can't shake the feeling that I'm not alone. The next day, the sunlight peeked through my curtains, but it didn't bring any comfort. I couldn't shake the feeling of dread. Those whispers haunted me. I needed to talk to someone, maybe even someone who knew the area. The locals might help me understand what was happening. I decided to visit the small cafe down the road. It was a cozy place with faded chairs and a counter that gleamed from years of wear. I ordered coffee and took a seat by the window. As I sipped my drink, I tried to sound casual as I asked the barista about the boathouse. "Oh, that old place?" she replied, raising an eyebrow. "It has quite the reputation around here." "What do you mean?" I leaned in, interested now. She glanced around before lowering her voice. "Some say it's haunted. People hear things at night. Voices, laughter. A few locals swear they've seen figures around there, lingering in the shadows. It makes some folks uneasy." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Uneasy how?" She shrugged, not seeming to take it seriously. "Just stories, you know, but some say it can feel wrong, like they're not just figments of imagination." "Did anything happen there?" I pressed. She didn't answer right away. I could see she wanted to say more, but she hesitated. "You shouldn't be out there alone at night, is all I'm saying." I thanked her and left, my mind racing. A part of me wanted to believe it was just gossip. Yet instinct told me the whispers I'd heard were not just echoes of the past. I felt drawn back to that boathouse, and I couldn't understand why. Later that night, I found myself standing outside the old structure again. The moonlight cast strange shadows across the ground. I hesitated, fear gnawing at my gut. Should I go in? Would I find answers or just more questions? Just then I heard it. The whispers again, clearer this time. It felt like they were calling my name. I stood frozen, a flash of courage hit me. If I was going to get to the bottom of this, I needed to know what they wanted. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. The air was thick and stale. My heart pounded as I moved through the darkness, each echo of my footsteps sending echoes back at me. Shadows danced over the walls. I strained to listen. "What do you want?" I shouted into the emptiness. Silence fell, heavy and suffocating. My pulse quickened with anxiety. Then suddenly the laughter erupted around me, almost deafening. My skin prickled with fear. That eerie sound wrapped around me like a shroud. I turned to leave, but that's when I saw it. A faint glow at the far end of the boathouse. It pulsed with an inviting light, but something felt very wrong. I had to know what it was. As I moved closer, the whispers intensified. They were no longer just sounds but words. "Join us," they beckoned. My heart raced as I realized this was the moment everything would either unravel or deepen into chaos. What awaited me at that glowing light? As I approached the glowing light, my breath quickened. The soft hum of the whispers enveloped me, urging me forward. "Join us." I hesitated, my instincts screaming that this was a mistake. But something deeper pulled me closer, a curiosity that felt almost irresistible. The air around the light shimmered like heat waves rising off asphalt. I took another step, and I could see now that it was an orb, suspended mid-air, radiating warmth. I reached out tentatively, fingertips almost brushing its surface. In that moment, the whispers escalated into a cacophony of voices. They were layered and chaotic, each one vying for attention, but some stood out, clear as day. "Help us. Find us." "Remember," I recoiled. Those words cut through the fear, piercing through the ambience like a knife. What did I need to remember? My mind raced, struggling to latch onto any memory that could provide an answer. Suddenly the orb flickered and began to pulse more erratically. I stumbled back, dread twisting in my gut. Was it angry? I turned to leave, but the voices surged, drowning my thoughts. "Don't go." I whirled around, and that's when I saw them, forms emerging from the shadows around the orb. Pale, indistinct figures floated just above the ground, eyes hollow, mouths drawn into gaping expressions that mirrored my own shock. One stepped forward, its features becoming clearer. It looked like a woman, her hair flowing as if caught in an unseen wind. "Tread carefully," she whispered, a warning tinged with urgency. "You have to find the truth." I took another step back, feeling the cold grip of fear clutching my chest. "What truth? What do you want from me?" I croaked, my voice barely above a whisper. The woman hovered silently for a moment, her gaze piercing through the shadows. "The past is buried here. You're closer than you think," she urged, before her features faded back into the darkness. The laughter erupted again, but this time it was different, sorrowful, desperate. I wanted to run, but something kept me rooted to the spot. Each word reverberated in my mind. The past is buried. My heart raced as I contemplated the implication. The past? What does that mean? And then I saw it, on the wall beside the glowing orb, a series of markings, shapes that seemed familiar but were obscured by dust and decay. I rushed toward it, desperate to decipher what was hidden. My fingers traced the outlines, symbols, words that felt ancient. Just then the boathouse trembled. The air thickened with energy and I stumbled, losing my footing. My pulse raced, desperation clawing at my throat. "No! I need answers!" But as the trembling intensified, I realized I wasn't alone. There was something else in the shadows, something that felt threatening and alive. A chill ran down my spine as I turned to face it, but all I found was darkness. Then everything went dark. The orb flickered one last time before going out completely, plunging me into an abyss of silence and uncertainty. All the warmth and light vanished, leaving only my racing heart echoing against the walls of the boathouse. I was not alone in this dark void. A presence lingered, heavy and unseen, waiting for me. What had I truly awakened? I stood in the darkness, heart pounding in my chest. The cold air wrapped around me like a shroud. I felt more than the absence of light. It was as if the shadows had a life of their own. I squinted, trying to make out anything in the oppressive gloom. But there was nothing, just the heavy feeling of being watched. "Hello?" I called out, my voice echoing in the silence. It felt foolish but necessary, a plea to break the eerie stillness. No response came, only the hollow sound of my own voice lingering, mocking me. Then a faint glimmer caught my eye. It was just a flicker, hardly noticeable, like a distant star trying to shine through a thick fog. I took a cautious step toward it, trepidation making every movement feel like a mistake. The closer I got, the more I realized it wasn't a star. It was a fragment of the orb, its soft glow fighting against the darkness. I reached out, and as my fingers brushed against it, the shadows around me twisted, growing more defined. What had felt like mere emptiness now crackled with energy. The whispers returned, softer this time, as if they were a secret being shared between the darkness and me. "Find us. Remember. Will you stop?" I shouted, frustration spilling over. "Who are you? What do you want?" My voice shook as I shouted into the void. A silence followed, almost weighty, as if my words hung in the air, waiting for a response. Suddenly I felt the air shift. A chill crawled down my spine as I realized the darkness was circling, closing in. I started to panic, a primal urge to escape urging me forward. I backed away, but the weak glow of the orb dimmed, and shadows lurked just outside my field of vision. Then a figure emerged, not like the woman from earlier, but more solid, more threatening. It stepped into the light, an indistinct shape that morphed the deeper I looked. A mass of shadowy tendrils and form. "Do you wish to see?" it asked, its voice a distorted echo that resonated deep in my bones. The sound felt like it was inside my head, mixing with my thoughts. "See what?" I stammered, fear curling in my gut. I wanted to flee but was rooted to that very spot. "Your truth," it said, its voice smooth like silk, laced with a sense of danger. Buried beneath layers of fear and time, I swallowed hard. The fear of the unknown gnawed at me, but the promise of answers pulled me in. "I don't understand." "Then let me show you." Before I could respond, the shadows around me surged forward, wrapping around my ankles. They weren't just shadows. They felt like hands, tightening, pulling. A flash of light erupted from the orb, brighter than before, illuminating everything in stark contrast. I gasped as images filled my mind, faces, places, memories that seemed close but just out of reach, each one more haunting than the last. And then I saw it. A glimpse of something or someone that had my heart racing, confusion melting into terror. "Wait!" I cried. But the light faded just as quickly as it had appeared. Darkness enveloped me once more, and with it came the fear that I had unraveled something I wasn't prepared to face. What had I just glimpsed? And why did it feel so familiar? The darkness closed in around me, heavy and suffocating. I blinked, trying to get the images out of my head, but they clung stubbornly. The flickering glow of the orb was barely a whisper now, leaving me in a void filled with questions. "Please just let me go," I murmured, my breath shaky. But the shadows seemed to pulse, responding to my fear. I could feel them tightening around me, as if they found strength in my panic. "Your truth is just beginning," the figure's voice echoed again, its tone like gravel. I felt it tugging on my mind, dragging me deeper into the uncharted territory of my own memories. 1 minute I was weighed down by dread. The next, something changed. A sharp edge of clarity cut through the fog. A name. I gasped. Maya. It pierced through the darkness, bright and urgent, a link to a past I had almost forgotten. "Who is Maya?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could think of the consequences. The darkness shifted, swirling around me like a living thing, its presence heavy, yet almost curious. "Find her," the figure said simply, then slipped back into the shadows. The shadows stopped pulling. It felt like they were giving me space to breathe, to think. I tried to shake off the lingering panic. "How do I find her?" I questioned, my voice steadier this time. A whisper of a breeze grazed my skin, carrying a scent, something floral mixed with salt. It felt oddly familiar, but it slipped from me like sand. In that moment, something stirred within me, as if the pieces of a puzzle were starting to align. I took a tentative step, the orb still glowing faintly behind me. With every step I remembered more. The laughter, the sunset on the beach, and the shared secrets with Maya, my childhood friend. But what had happened? Why had I lost touch? Why did it feel like a fog was smothering those memories? As apprehension clawed at my throat, I realized I couldn't stay here. I had to do something. I turned around, scanning the darkness for a way out. That's when I saw it. A narrow path illuminated by a flicker of light ahead. It wasn't the orb, but a soft, beckoning glow coming from deeper within the shadows. Instinct kicked in. I shifted toward the light, heart racing with every step. The path felt tight, made of shadows and whispers urging me forward. Maya, I whispered, clinging to her name like a lifeline. I entered a clearing, wide and open. At its center sat an old wooden box, intricately carved and faintly pulsing with energy. The glow was stronger now, almost beckoning. A part of me wanted to ignore it, but I couldn't shake the urge to know more. I swallowed hard, approaching the box. That's when I froze. Someone stepped from behind a tree, eyes wide, hair wild, face framed by chaos. "You shouldn't be here," they whispered. It was a voice I recognized, echoing from deeper in my mind. "Maya?" I breathed, and dread filled me anew. "Is that really you?" But instead of a response, the shadows roared around us, merging, twisting. They were alive, angry at my intrusion. I backed away, the box forgotten. "Run!" she shouted, her voice sharp and clear. And just like that, the shadows surged, forcing us together. The world blurred as I grabbed her hand. We needed to escape. Together. We sprinted, the shadows howling as if they were alive, hungry for our fear. I clutched Maya's hand and we moved like two startled deer. Everything felt surreal, a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I glanced back, my heart pounding with terror. The shadows were shifting, twisting into shapes I couldn't comprehend. "Where do we go?" I yelled, my voice strained. "Just away from here," she shouted back, her eyes wide but determined. I tried to focus on the path ahead, desperate for a way out. There was a sudden drop in the ground, an unseen ledge waiting to snare us in its depths. Before I could react, we stumbled over it, falling into an underground cavern. The landing was rough, but the darkness enveloped us like a thick blanket. I blinked, trying to adjust my eyes. Maya landed beside me, her breath ragged. "We need to keep moving." She pushed herself up, her expression resolute, but I could see the fear flickering in her eyes. I nodded, following her lead. We crept along the cold, damp walls, listening intently for any sign of pursuit. The air smelled like damp earth and decay, enough to make my stomach turn. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all I could manage was silence. "Do you remember anything?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Not much," she replied, her tone strained. "Just that something is wrong. We need to find out what it is." Then I remembered the box. The box? What was inside? My heart raced. Are we safe here? I don't know, but it felt like something was watching us. She glanced over her shoulder as if expecting the shadows to follow us here too. The cavern was silent. Too silent. My instincts screamed at me to move, but I was paralyzed by uncertainty and dread. "Maybe we should turn back?" "No!" she exclaimed, and her voice cut through the tension. "We can't go back to the box. We have to keep going forward." And just as she said that, a piercing glare of light shot through the cavern, illuminating strange stalagmites that looked like fingers reaching out of the earth. I shielded my eyes. A silhouette emerged from the light, a figure draped in long, tattered robes, half hidden behind the brilliance. "Who are you?" I gasped, my heart racing again. The figure stepped closer, revealing a face I didn't recognize, yet something about it was oddly familiar. "You should not have disturbed the shadows," the figure intoned, voice echoing against the cavern walls. "The truth was not meant for you." Maya stepped in front of me, protective. "We'll take our chances. Whatever the truth is, we need to know." The figure smiled, but it didn't reach its eyes. "Then you will have your answer, but be warned. The truth is often more dangerous than the lies." A cold shiver ran down my spine. As I held Maya's hand tighter, confusion and fear tangled inside me. I wanted to run, but we were trapped. The only way forward was through this mystery, whatever it might lead to. "Are you ready?" Maya asked, her voice low. "No," I admitted. "But I don't think we have a choice." The glare of light intensified, and I took a deep breath. The shadows loomed in the back of my mind, whispering secrets I wasn't sure I wanted to hear. The figure extended a hand, motioning us to come closer. "Maya," I started, but I knew we had to step into the unknown. With a nod, we moved forward together, ready to face whatever awaited us. The figure's hand beckoned us forward, and despite every warning bell ringing in my head, I took a tentative step toward the light. Maya followed close behind. The moment we crossed the threshold, the world shifted. The light enveloped us, warm yet vibrating with an unsettling energy. I squinted, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The cavern morphed into a different reality, walls shimmering, alive with swirling colors. I felt dizzy. It wasn't just my mind racing. It was as if the very air was charged with static. "Where are we?" Maya whispered, her voice quivering as we stepped deeper into this new realm. "I don't know," I replied, my throat dry. "But it feels wrong." Before we could discuss it further, the ground began to tremble. We steadied ourselves against the wall, watching as shadows writhed along the newly formed floor. They twisted and turned like snakes, almost inviting us to touch them. My breath caught in my chest. Suddenly, the familiar figure materialized again, now standing just a short distance away. The light dimmed, revealing a staircase spiraling down into an abyss. "Follow me," it commanded, motioning toward the stairs. Maya hesitated. "What if it's a trap?" The figure's smile widened. "Everything you fear lies above. Knowledge awaits below." I glanced at Maya, feeling the weight of uncertainty between us. But up above, I could almost hear the shadows closing in. I nodded toward the staircase. "We have to go down." With our hearts pounding in sync, we moved together. The steps felt slick beneath my feet, each one echoing in the emptiness. The staircase spiraled endlessly, and I lost track of time. The air grew colder with each step, sending chills down my spine. At last we reached a large underground chamber. It was vast, the kind of space that made you feel insignificant. Faint light flickered from crystal formations jutting from the walls, casting eerie reflections. In the center of the chamber lay a stone altar, draped in shadows that seemed to cling to it. "What is that?" Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know, but it feels important," I replied, instinctively stepping closer. As we approached the altar, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through my bones. I reached out, my fingers nearly brushing a crude carving on the stone. Suddenly the shadows erupted, swirling violently around us. "We need to back away," Maya shouted, panic coloring her voice. But it was too late. The shadows coalesced into shapes and figures began to rise in the darkness. They looked like people, yet twisted, warped, as if they were trapped between this world and another. Their mouths moved silently, and I felt sick. "What are they saying?" I breathed, my heart racing faster. "I can't tell," Maya replied, eyes wide. "It's like they're warning us." Just then the familiar figure appeared behind the altar, a mix of anger and sorrow etched on its face. "You should not have come here," it bellowed, and the shadows lunged toward us. Before I could react, a surge of energy pulsed through the chamber, knocking us back against the wall. The world turned dark for a moment. When I regained my senses, I could barely hear Maya's voice calling my name in the distance. It wasn't just shadows this time. Something was coming for us. That's when I saw it. a glimmering object atop the altar with a symbol I recognized. It felt like a clue but also a warning. I locked eyes with Maya, both of us knowing we had to decide. "Do we go for it?" I asked desperately, heart pounding in my ears. She nodded, determination threading through her fear. "Yes, we have to." And as we took our first step toward the altar, I knew that whatever lay ahead would change everything. As we moved toward the altar, I felt a pull, as if the object called out to me. The air thickened, heavy with unspoken words and dread. Each step forward felt like a descent into madness. The shining object atop the altar was circular, adorned with a series of intricate runes that seemed to pulse with light. I could almost hear them whispering. My heart raced faster, and I glanced back at Maya. Her expression mirrored my unease. "Do you really think this is a good idea?" she asked, her voice tight with worry. "It might help us understand," I replied, trying to sound braver than I felt. But my stomach churned. We reached the altar, and I raised my hand cautiously. Initial touch sent an electric shock through my fingers, causing me to jerk back. The light dimmed suddenly, washing my surroundings in shadow. "What's happening?" Maya whispered, panic creeping into her voice. Before I could answer, the shadows began to swirl around us again, swirling with renewed intensity. The figures that had risen before us were now thrashing angrily at the edges of the chamber. I could see their mouths moving, but their sounds were swallowed by the energy buzzing in the air. "Back away," I warned, instinctively stepping back, but it was clear we didn't have much space left. The shadows were tightening their grip around us. "I have to touch it," I said impulsively, driven by an irrational sense of urgency. "Maybe it will stop them." "No!" Maya shouted, grabbing my wrist tightly. "This is not a game." But something in me wanted to know what this object was. Without waiting for her reply, I lunged forward again. This time I pressed my palm against the surface. A shockwave radiated outward, knocking me off my feet. I fell hard against the ground, the world spinning around me. The low hum turned into a shriek that pierced my ears. Images flashed in my mind, faces, places, shadows, and light. I gasped, overwhelmed by a flood of memories that were not my own. I could see the faces of others trapped in darkness, their eyes pleading. Desperation clawed at my throat. "Maya!" I cried, but the sound came out distorted, lost among the echoes. I felt a hand gripping my shoulder, and I turned to see Maya kneeling beside me, fear etched on her face. "What did you see?" "I don't know," I stammered, breathless. "I think they're trapped. We need to help them." Before she could respond, one of the shadowy figures broke free, lunging toward us. It was taller than before, looming ominously. I scrambled back, but my hands collided with the altar. The object blazed to life, illuminating the chamber with scorching light. The figure hesitated, momentarily disoriented, but it quickly regained focus. A voice echoed from the shadows, distorted and urgent. "Release us." I stared into its hollow eyes, heart hammering in my chest. "I don't know how," I shouted, my voice catching in the chaos. That's when the altar began to shake violently. I could feel a force pulling at me, dragging me closer to the glowing object. I couldn't resist. I had to uncover the truth behind this mystery. "Maya!" I yelled desperately. "We have to do something." "Get it!" she cried, her eyes wide with fear and determination. I reached forward again. This time I had to unleash whatever power it held. As the shadows pressed in tighter, I braced myself for whatever would come next. Whatever force resided in that symbol would not only reveal the truth, it would change everything we knew about ourselves. I gripped the altar, feeling its energy surge through me. The shadows twisted violently and the room seemed to contract around us. "Maya, hold on!" I shouted against the rising tumult. With every ounce of will, I pressed my palm harder against the object. A blinding light erupted from it, pushing back the shadows momentarily. I could see the faces of the trapped people clearer now, anguished, desperate, reaching out to us. It felt like they were slipping away, and I could hardly breathe. "Maya, they need us. I called out, pulling her closer to the brilliance radiating from the altar. If we can just figure out how to set them free. But before she could respond, the presence of one shadow lunged forward. It coiled around me like smoke, swirling tightly. I gasped, the chill biting at my skin. "Maya!" I shouted again, but my voice felt thick and distant. The figure's voice rose from the dark, pressing against my mind. "You cannot save them," it hissed. "They belong to the darkness. You should be afraid." I trembled, feeling the very air around me shimmer with anxiety. "No, they deserve to be free," I screamed. The words pushed through a fragile resolve. Suddenly, the runes on the object flashed in a brilliant cadence. It was like an echo of light, illuminating the chamber and pushing the shadows back. I could feel my fingers tingle, filled with a strange warmth and an energy I had never experienced. Just as I thought we might prevail, a deafening roar filled the room. The shadowy figure broke free from its hesitance, soaring towards the altar, its energy suddenly vastly amplified. It was no longer just a specter, it was monstrous and filled with raw fury. "Release them to me," it bellowed. In a surge of instinct, I formed a connection with the energy of the altar. "No!" I yelled defiantly. It was an instinctive choice to fight back. The light pulsed in response. An explosion of brilliance enveloped us, pushing the creature back momentarily. I closed my eyes, feeling the heat radiate, blocking out the overwhelming sense of dread. Maya gripped my hand tight, her voice steadying me. "We can do this. Just focus." We both concentrated on the trapped spirits, channeling our energy toward them. It felt like I could pull threads of hope into the light. The trapped faces shimmered and began to unite with the light streaming from the altar, their expressions shifting from despair to determination. But then everything shifted. A gust of cold air pierced the warm illumination, and the lights faded, leaving us gasping in darkness. The shadows returned, angry and loud. I staggered, feeling the air filled with despair closing in again. "What's happening?" Maya's voice trembled. Then, in the dark, I saw something. A flicker. An outline. Someone was standing at the edge of the chamber. I squinted into the shadows, trying to focus. It was another figure, human-shaped but shrouded in darkness. Who are you?" I managed to utter, heart racing again, but instead of answering, the silhouette stepped forward, shattering the tension and filling me with dread. The whispers I had heard before turned into distinct words now. "You shouldn't have touched it." The walls closed in as the reality of their statement hit me. An icy wave of fear coursed through me. As the figure stepped into the light, revealing a familiar face, my world tilted. I hadn't just stepped into the unknown. I had awakened something far worse than I could ever imagine. I stumbled backward, the shock of recognition hitting me like a tidal wave. The familiar figure clad in darkness stood before me, eyes wide and hollow. "Maya," I gasped, breathless. "It's you. Why are you here?" The figure, or rather the shadow of who Maya once was, tilted its head, almost as if contemplating my existence. "You shouldn't have come here," it echoed, its voice layered and twisted. "There are truths that must stay buried." "Maya!" I shouted, desperation clawing at my throat. "Please, I need to understand. We have to save them. This is wrong." The shadow shook its head, the features fading into pool-like liquid darkness. "You are not prepared for the truth. You will suffer if you try." My heart raced, fear rising slowly like smoke filling an empty room. Beside me, the real Maya, my childhood friend, the girl I'd known and lost, gripped my arm tightly. "No, don't believe it." The dark figure let out a chilling laugh, the sound echoing through the chamber. The trapped spirits flickered, caught between light and dark, now screaming in silent agony. "You sought the truth, but you must now choose. Embrace it or leave it all behind." "What do you mean?" I pleaded, my voice a hushed tremor. "What choice?" "The truth you seek is a burden," the shadow said, "an unraveling of all you know. but you must either bear it or allow the darkness to consume you. Maya stepped in front of me, her shadow self looming behind, caught in a dance with that which she had once been. "I won't let either of you control my fate," she shouted, her voice carrying strength. Then she turned to me, eyes filled with a mixture of fear and determination. "We have to act. You're right. They deserve to be free." The shadow sneered. "You think you can save them? You think they still want saving? They chose their fate." But as the shadow loomed closer, their eyes now filled with a swirling tempest of anguish and despair, I felt a flicker of courage. "How could you say that? They deserve a chance. We all do." It tumbled out of my mouth without thinking, propelled by the urgency of the moment. As I spoke, the darkness seemed to ripple, the growing cacophony of whispers around us turning into an overwhelming roar. I felt my heart thudding, resonating with the energy building in the air. The altar pulsed, and I realized that the truth wasn't just about understanding. It was about challenging the very fabric of what was believed to be inevitable. Needles of energy shot through me. I reached down deep, drawing forth every ounce of fear, every inkling of hope. Could we confront this truth and emerge intact? "I'm not afraid of the truth," I shouted, as if my voice could part the shadows. "Detach yourselves," the dark figure hissed. "You defy what has been woven into your fates." Maya squeezed my hand tighter, sending a shock of encouragement through me. "You're right. If we could face our fears and put forth the courage, we could—" "I will not allow this," the shadow screamed. And in that moment a blinding flash engulfed the chamber. Everything darkened around us, yet I could still feel the warmth of Maya beside me. Her unwavering spirit grounded me. We were not alone. Then, with defiance bolstered like an anchor against the rising tide, I swung my gaze back to the altar, my fingers still trembling but reaching confidently for its radiant warmth. It was time to break the cycle. I raised my hand, willing energy to flow through me in vibrant waves. "Together," I yelled, hoisting my voice into the storm. "Let's break this cycle." The altar throbbed in response, a fierce luminescence cascading over us as I pushed against the dark forces spiraling in from all directions. Light clashed against shadow, the ethereal energy forming barriers of hope and despair. And then, inexplicably, the trapped spirits began to coalesce around us. I felt their reach, pulling me toward the altar as if the very light called them home. They moved closer, eyes reflecting a harder truth than I had ever admitted. The idea of freedom and the resilience of lost souls. "Help us, set us free," they whispered, voices blending in softness that cradled warmth into my chest. Drawing upon every essence of my being, I focused on that brightness. The altar brightened, bursting alive like the dawn breaking over an endless horizon. I could feel the shadows faltering, hesitating against the advance of truth. "No," the figure hissed, rage laced with an unfamiliar fear. It surged toward me like dark storm clouds, yearning to envelop us in despair, but suddenly the spirits surged forward, merging with the energy radiating around us. They were no longer shadows, no longer lost. They pulsed, swirling into the brightness, forms crystallizing into ethereal brilliance. "Thank you," they breathed, their voices melding into a soft harmony of light that washed through the chamber. With a final roar, the dark figure lunged toward us, but it was met with the cascading energy of hope, scattering its essence like brittle glass against stone. In that moment, the shadows shattered, dissipating into nothingness as they collapsed under the newfound brilliance. As everything exploded in an intense brightness, I felt Maya's hand slip away and I gasped as we were engulfed in radiant light. Suddenly, I was alone, floating in a brilliant void, unsure where I was. I closed my eyes, feeling the warmth envelop me. A heartbeat later, I opened them to find myself lying on the sandy shore where my journey began. The waves rolled gently at my feet, mocking the chaos that had unfolded deep within the boathouse. I sat up, disoriented and breathless, scanning the horizon, half expecting to see shadows lurking, yet there was only peace. Yet a lingering weight rested in the corners of my mind, the echo of the truth that had slipped through our fingers. I would never be the same. What was Maya's fate? What had come of the spirits? Had they truly been set free? Or were their whispers destined to linger? As I stood prepared to walk away, a gentle breeze caressed my skin, carrying a faint familiar scent of salt and blossoms. I turned back, heart thrumming in my chest. Did I dare to hope? I took a step toward the boathouse, caught between hope and dread, knowing everything was not quite over yet.